I did a blog on my website yesterday about George Skipper, the architect of Norwich. We're going to Barcelona tomorrow, and John Betjeman, the poet, described Skipper as the Gaudi of Norwich. And behind me is a fired earth building. Obviously, that wasn't its original business, but it was George Skipper's original office. And he built a lot of the city. So when you look around the city of Norwich city centre, you'll see a lot of his work. And he's fond of leaving remnants of himself in terms of statues on buildings. So the Norwich Union building, now Aviva, on Surrey Street, has got a statue of himself. And apparently the Royal Arcade, he put little statuettes of himself, which is just across from here at the market. But I think his finest creation was probably this building, even though it's on a smaller scale, and Gerald's, which is just down the road here, behind the Guildhall. And I do think that's a really marvellous building. So let's walk down there. And if you don't know Norwich, it's well worth visiting. We're moving here soon, so I've fallen in love with the place in lots of ways. It is the best city we've ever lived near. We live in Bradwell, Great Yarmouth, but we're moving bang into the city centre. And it's got its problems, like any city. It's got deprivation, it's got drugs, it's got alcohol, but it's also described as the most complete medieval city in Britain, and you can see why. It's fairly car-free, and if it was somewhere like York, it'd be absolutely swarmed with tourists day in, day out. And it's only a couple of hours from London. But as you can see, I'm crossing here behind, I think it's City Hall, or not County Hall, and behind me is a castle, which you can see there in the market for these brightly coloured roofs, and the cathedral is just behind those trees there, behind Gerald's. Don't know if you can see that poking up. And the stone was imported from Caen in northern France, where we've got friends, Cyril and Celine Tabarel, who are friends of ours, who live in Caen. And it was transported, the stone, up the River Wensum from northern France to build the cathedral and the castle, the Norman castle. And this is a spectacular building behind me. I'll just carry on walking down. I should have a gimbal, really. Now I've got a smaller iPhone, I should invest in a gimbal. But this is a market, and it's a bit like Camden or Borough Market, and it's reinvented itself as a food place. Unfortunately, it's closed on Sundays. And then beyond the Guildhall, you've got an area called the Lanes, which is a bit like the Shambles in York, which is pretty impressive. So I'm just walking down towards Gerald's. Got this beautiful tree here. Hope I don't get run over by a taxi. That Tesco there, Tesco Express, is being converted into a hotel soon, and that's pretty impressive. But I'll just turn around and show you Gerald's. Hopefully you can see it. There, it's very Victorian in its style, but it's an absolutely beautiful building, isn't it? Very ornate. And Gerald's were the publishers for a lot of literature. And Norwich is known as the city of stories and the UNESCO City of Literature. So there's a lot of good coming from me being a writer in this fine city of Norwich. Ian McEwan went to the UEA, Kazuo Ishiguro, John Boyne, who wrote The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas, he studied at the UEA, and he got the idea for The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas from looking out of his room in the Golden Triangle, NR2, and seeing fences, and he was inspired to write that concentration camp fiction about Shmuel and Bruno, which I taught for many years. But behind me you've got St Peter Mancroft Church. Behind the market you've got the Forum, which is like a millennium place, which contains a public library, and much of it is pedestrianised. So if you've not been to Norwich, I'd say it's definitely worth a visit. I love the place, and that's why I'm moving here.